If you'd like to be able to listen to the show without ads and have full access to bonus content, that's an option. To find out how, please go to dogmanencounters.com/podcast. 5 years ago, on April 25th of 2020, tonight's guest was featured on episode 301, and that episode was titled Dogman Horror Show. Well, since that episode aired, there have been new developments, and because of that, he's agreed to come back on and update all of us about what's been going on. Having said all that, Bryce Gardner, thanks so much for coming back.
Thank you so much for having me, Vic. I appreciate you.
Well, that goes two ways. I'm glad to hear from you, or I should say I was glad to hear from you when you reached out to me recently to update me, but I'm so sorry that you've had all these new experiences.
Yeah, I am too. You think you get away from things and they somehow manage to creep back in, but it wasn't through any fault of mine, and I don't think it was from any fault of theirs either, to be honest. But I'm sure we'll get into that soon.
Oh, yeah, we definitely will. Well, before we do get to things like that, for anyone who missed that episode, and I guess for people who did catch that episode, it's been 5 years, please give us a bio on yourself again.
My name is Bryce Gardner, as you've said. Well, I'm 31 now, because it's been 5 years. I'm 31 now. I am currently in a much better state of employment. I can't share anything because of NDAs and stuff like that, but rest assured, everybody, I'm doing fine. Currently in the Gulf Coast of Texas now. We moved, I believe it was a little bit after our interview, which was something that we were planning on doing as a family because, Dad's job kind of gave out. And they basically told me to move down here. And so we came with them. And, because of world events, we got stuck. And it's kind of just been that way ever since. There's not a whole lot to say outside of, I've gotten back into physical training and stuff like that to get my body all back up and right and everything after years of kind of neglecting that. So I'm doing good on that front. I'm healthy. I'm as happy as I suppose one could be. I don't know really what else to say. I'm sorry. I'm not quite good at talking about myself.
Oh, come on now. You did a good job of summing everything up. And, like I told you the first time we spoke, I'm proud of you. Sounds to me like you're doing a really good job of getting your life just the way you want it to be. You've made some really good improvements. You really have.
All right. Thank you, Vic. It means a lot to me, especially coming from you, because a lot of your advice is what kind of got me to some of the places I ended up being. The good places, the good places, of course. None of the shenanigans. That one was all me.
Thanks for clarifying that it was only the good places. You had me starting to worry there.
No. Honestly, if I listened to your advice, I don't think I would have ended up who I was with when it all happened. So that was just kind of a blindside moment. Pretty face, nice smile kind of thing. Gets you all messed up and your inhibitions kind of go away sort of thing. That's a me thing, not taking control, as I believe was the advice you gave me, and making sure that you're always aware of what's going on. So I should have kept my little Vic that lives in the back of my mind somewhere and reminds me occasionally of things that we talked about last time and this time too. Life advice that you gave me that has helped quite a lot.
You've got a little Vic in the back of your head. That's a scary thought.
But he's lived back there. He just occasionally comes out and reminds me of the things we talked about. Like, hey, you got to do this, and this, and then things will get better kind of thing. He was there and very active when this was going on because, when you run into these things, there's nothing more terrifying than seeing one. And, it's like with any animal that's dangerous and can harm you, and there's not a whole lot between you and them. It's a very terrifying experience. If I hadn't spoke with you beforehand and I had to just muscle bit through it and, swallowed it like I did, I don't think I would have handled it the way I did. I don't think things would have gone as well as they did, all things considered.
Well, it goes without saying, I'm so sorry to hear you had to have these new experiences, but I guess there is a ray of sunshine in that you handled these in a very good way, or at least as well as could be hoped. So thank goodness for that.
We'll see if I handle it as good once I go into we didn't discuss it at length before, and it's primarily just me not wanting to have it relived it, but I did all right, but I still think I could have done better. It's one of those things it's always in hindsight when you look at these experiences. But in the moment of adrenaline, there's not a whole lot you can really do to kind of steer that particular ship.
Well, I can appreciate your feelings on that, but you could handle any situation better. I just think you deserve a lot of credit for handling the situations as well as you did from what you shared with me about what's happened. But before we get to that, just a moment ago, you mentioned a pretty face and a nice smile. Before I have you bring everyone up to speed on what you talked about in episode 301, please go into more detail about that pretty face and nice smile that caused some unfortunate things to happen without revealing any details of the new encounters, that is.
Oh, of course. So for everybody, I'm sure that everybody understands the saying, but I met a girl, at the time. She was very beautiful. I mean, she is very beautiful, I should say. We don't speak anymore because of the events that happened, but she was not who I thought she was. She had become enamored. Well, she was enamored with, the paranormal and like cryptids and everything else from the start, which I didn't think was a big deal, but tons of people are. And I always refer people to Vic's channel just because, if people have experiences and stuff like that or know somebody, giving them the help is kind of what matters. It's kind of like if you have I have a buddy who claims, for example, that he's had a Bigfoot encounter. So referring him to, like the Bigfoot encounters and stuff like that. It's just a place for them to go get it off their chest, because holding on to it, as I've learned, and as Vic shared with me last time we were here, is not healthy. And it can cause a lot of problems, especially if it's really traumatic. It's really bad. They're not easy to talk about. I don't normally stammer or catch myself like this, because even now it's a lot to process. Even with the knowledge I have now and where I am in life now, it's difficult. And she was enamored with it. My mistake was introducing her to Vic's show, not because Vic's bad or anything like that, or the show's bad, but because she listened to my episode, listened to other people's episodes, and she, for lack of a better term, decided she wanted one. She wanted one of her own. I saw something cool and I want it too. And she went over and beyond to get it. And this is one of those situations that you play silly games, you win silly prizes. And unfortunately, I happened to be there when the prize was won. And I mean, we were together about between 6 to 8 months. I haven't dated since. Just life hasn't allowed for it. And to be honest with you, I'm not really looking. I don't really think I'm particularly cut out for it, kind of thing, but that's a side note. Not really that important, but, she's kind of the catalyst behind all of this. She is I don't want to lay blame at her feet, because I don't think she realized the gravity of it at the time. I don't think she realized what she was doing. And even if she maybe thought she did, I don't think she realized how bad it was going to get. It's kind of like one of those situations where you antagonize an animal enough, even if it is an intelligent animal, it's going to lose its patience. And I'm kind of confident that's what happened. Granted, I don't know how long everything had been going on, right? There's a lot of things I still don't know, and I don't think I ever will know. And I don't know if I want to know. But she's the kind of girl where she saw a spooky doll that looked like it crawled right out of Annabelle and jumped into the dumpster to go get it, and haul it out despite my protest.
Wow.
Because I didn't want the thing in the car because it was terrifying. So she's that kind of girl. She's crazy, rowdy. It was fun while it lasted. We had a brilliant thing that burned out quickly, as most bright and brilliant flames do, but that's, I guess, to sum up Allie in a nutshell.
Well, thank goodness it did burn out. At the time, it might have been frustrating, but everything you told me about her, I'm so glad it did. If you've had a Dogman encounter that you need help dealing with, or if you'd like to be a guest on the show, please go to dogmenencounters.com and submit a report. If you've had a Bigfoot sighting and would like to be a guest on one of my 2 Bigfoot podcasts, please go to mybigfootsighting.com. Well, I'll tell you what, Bryce, we have a lot to unpack here. So first, I want you to please give us a flyover of all the experiences you told us about on episode 301 to bring us all up to speed. And then after you do that, please just dive right into updating us on what happened since.
So in 301, we discussed, when I was a kid, I saw one when we went up to the Native American reservation. We ran into we ran into the signs of one, and my teacher's dog was freaking out in the bus on the way home. We were like in 4th grade. We went up there to do a project. We went up there to learn, about their culture and everything like that, which was really cool. Experience I would never trade for anything. I still have the little mask I made too, which is goofy looking, but you use sunflower seeds for teeth kind of thing because you had to use what you had. But it was her project. It was cool stuff. I would never trade it. And then at that point we spoke about the big encounter, which was the one when we went down to that dilapidated house that was outside of the town we lived in, which was near Force. It was, it's not there anymore. So it's been taken down as I've heard recently from a few friends that live out in Forest Grove. It's been taken down as of now. The house does not exist, at least as far as they know. I think that they were talking about rebuilding it and someone had bought the land, but, like 2 years ago, I heard that they had finally, gotten rid of it completely. There was nothing left of it. But we spoke about that, and we spoke about the kind of the long-term effects and like how it felt and everything like that. And a lot of I don't want to call it psychosis, but a lot of the like nightmares that kind of came along with it, and the mental blocks that came with it. There were a lot of things that, you think you're crazy when you see stuff like this. You develop coping mechanisms that may or may not be healthy, vices like alcohol, smoking, you name it, things that are there to kind of take the edge off like any traumatic memory. But I don't know if these are related. I will say that to everybody in the audience. If you're hoping that she makes a return, the female dogman that I ran into, I don't think it was her. It could be. I don't know. I couldn't really tell with this one. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. There's a lot more I was focused on than it. We didn't have that moment of intimate eye locking that me and the first one did, where I got a good look at it. This was a lot different. So apologies in advance. I mean, it could be, but I don't think it was her. Mainly just because the fur was different. From what I could see, it didn't look the same. So I guess where it really started was it was shortly after Allie and I started dating. We'd been driving around talking. She'd been showing me around because we'd moved, and so I was new. I didn't know where anything was. And we had gone quite a while without this being brought up. And then she started talking about it, which of course, I learned that a lot of the people I met here had fascinations with this stuff. A lot of the friends I made actually listened, believe it or not, to this very show. And, I didn't know up until, again, after everything had been gone down, because I didn't talk to him as much about this kind of stuff. It's not something that comes up in conversation often, at least not in, I guess, our day to day. Allie and I had her listen to the episode that had me, 301, and then I'm sure she went and listened to the others, on her own time. Cause, it's one of those things once you live it, like coming back and listening to it, sure it's always good. And I'm always here despite not saying much. I do listen to several of the episodes when I have time, but with work and everything, it's difficult. So she went and kind of was doing research, and I assume it's because I told her that sometimes I do have nightmares of the experience, even though I don't want to say I'm completely over it, but it was one of those things that every now and then, something happens in your life, and then I guess your mind wanders is the best way to put it. It haunts you, long after they're gone. And whether that's the Dogman has some ability to do that. I've heard many people claim that they have that ability where they can kind of stay with you. It sticks with you, or it's just the mind trying to rationalize it, or something happened that kind of brings you back, whatever the significance is. I warned her, sometimes I'll wake up. I don't get weird. I don't like scream or anything. It's just cold sweat. You sit up, kind of have to go get some water, walk around a little bit. It didn't help that she had land. Her family had land. Her father had farmland and everything, quite a bit of it. So going out there, and if I were to ever visit or anything like that, is just a lot of land, a lot of space, which granted, I'm a country kid, but big empty land where there's not a whole lot of stuff and there's trees and everything else for things to hide in, kind of become the bane of my existence. I'm always looking to see if there's something moving there, shadows, things that aren't right. Partly because, keeping your eyes on your surroundings is kind of an important thing, especially when you're out in something else's house where you're not in control. But we went out to Friendswood for the Renaissance Fair, which is where we started noticing that there were odd happenings. Allie had dressed up as a shaman, right? She had gone and gotten an outfit, looked like she was a Native American shaman. It was really cool. It was actually really cool to see, really well put together. But she had all these I don't want to call them. She had talismans and stuff, which were apparently legitimate, and they're from her. They were actually family things, like the little, I don't want to call them opal, but I'm not quite sure what they're called. You know, the little sea foam jade looking things. She had a bunch of those. I can't even think of their name right now. I could probably Google it and figure it out, but I don't remember what they're exactly called, but they're basically beads and stuff like that. She had furs and everything, and she was really big into taxidermy, so she did have some skulls. Now, I don't know if they were real or not, but they looked real enough for me. They just didn't have any scent or anything like that. But basically, we walked around, we did our thing, but I couldn't help but feel like we were being watched. I mean, it's the Renaissance Fair. There's stuff going on everywhere, but, you know, Allie was determined to avoid the big crowds because she doesn't like people, like a lot of people. Fair enough. I'm not a big crowd person either, right? But skirting around the outside of it kind of drugged my attention to what was going on, because we were staying very close to the wood line, to the tree line and everything like that. And I remember they had this elephant there for elephant rides, and it was getting frisky. It was not happy. It didn't really do anything, but it was definitely getting, it was being very loud compared to when we first arrived. And that day, while we were having lunch and everything, we sat away from everybody and we're kind of off near the trees. I do this thing now if I'm having like a picnic or something where I'll watch the tree line as I'm eating, like, cause look for any subtle shifts or anything. And I've started doing this a lot because we have a lot of like wild boar here. There's, you know, I watched a alligator, or as we call him, swamp puppy, come out and grab some kid's Power Wheel at a park because it was near one of the docks. So I've seen there, we have wildlife enough to be concerned about. Coyotes here are pretty brazen too. So it's always good to kind of keep your eyes open, because you never know when some guy decides to throw his sandwich out in the woods and something decides it wants a bite, kind of thing, you know. And my primary concern is her and keeping her safe. Like that's my objective at this stage, because if something's coming, you know, I'd rather get me than her, kind of thing. And I remember looking out there and I remember seeing something move. At the time, I didn't know what it was. I thought it was just a really big dog, which sounds really funny given the fact of, you know, where I am now and the things I'd seen before. But, you know, there were dogs all over well, not all over the place, but there were dogs. Again, we have coyotes. We have all sorts of things out here. So assuming that it is that off the cuff, I felt would be wrong. It did strike me as odd because of where it was standing. And the fact that it was facing toward me, which I remember looking at it and seeing the side of it, so you could see it peeking around the corner of the tree, and it looked like it was just kind of looking as if it had its head cocked towards you a little bit. So it looked like it could have just had its head turned to the side and was looking at you. You just couldn't see the rest of it from where it was standing or how it was standing. But it's the fact that it purposely kept half of its face hidden. You can only see part of its ear and part of its neck and the way its head was turned. So it was kind of hard to see where exactly its body would be. And it sat there for a long time, but it was far enough out where I couldn't really discern the details. It was just dark. It had dark fur, and it had very, very, very opulent gold eyes. Like, these were very large golden eyes. And, well, I should say amber eyes, but I always say they're gold because when the sun was hitting it just right, it looked gold. You know, I watched it for a long time while she was talking with some of the people we went with and everything like that. And eventually I actually saw it turn and kind of head off in its own direction. Like it left. Right. And it didn't make too much noise. It didn't do anything malicious. I didn't see it do the atypical, what I would expect after my experiences with the last one, that we saw, where it can kind of smile. I don't know how to explain it, but it looks like it's smiling. But I never got the feeling that it had fully left. You know what I mean? Like, I never felt like it had vacated the premises. I felt like it was more skirting around opportunistically looking for something to do. I think it was bored. Because looking back at it, the whole day I was on edge after that. Like I wasn't going to bring it up in front of our friends and our peers and everything like that. I certainly didn't want to bring it up in front of her because she was having a good time. And she was tugging me to every single shop all the while I'm trying to like keep an eye out because I'm, for lack of a better term, on edge. Cause if it was as big as I thought it might be, even if it were just a coyote, it's big. It was big enough to where I even by itself, it'd be a problem. If it was, what my gut was starting to tell me what it might have been, which I didn't think was possible. I didn't even think they would come this far south. I thought that, down in the Gulf Coast that these things didn't exist. I figured it was mostly the Northwest and then more northern areas. But, again, after Vic and I talked, last night, looking back at it, we have enough of a population of food sources for something like that to survive comfortably, from alligators to boars to everything else. So maybe it was just foolish optimism to believe that, it couldn't be. And I spent a long time saying that to myself that it couldn't be. There's no way. What are the odds? It's impossible. This stuff you tell yourself to try and make sense of a situation. Heck, you have one encounter. What are the odds? It's like lightning striking. It can't strike in the same place twice, right? Like, what are the odds of that? And was I wrong? Boy, was I wrong. We came home. I went home. She went home. For a while, we were working at the same place until I eventually left. So that way we wouldn't have to worry about it, which is why we weren't worried about dating and everything because I was moving on to a different job, a better job. That was when I was rocking my, my suit and ponytail combo. Vic, he would have been proud of me. I was selling fragrance for a while, making the big bucks on the commissions. It was a good job. It was a fun job. I do kind of miss it. But she called me one day when I was on shift, right? I was on lunch. And she told me that something had damaged their fences around their farm. I'm like, okay, what do you mean something had damaged your fences around your farm? Like, what are we talking about? What are we talking about damage? Does something dig under it? Does something chew on it? Like, what are we talking about? Because, coyotes, if they want to get in, they do all sorts of stuff to get into fences if they can't get over it. So if they can't get over it, they'll go under it. Does it look like something to that? She's like, no, something actually just kind of busted through the fence a little bit. Like, it looks like something pushed through the fence. So I was like, okay, because this is like 2 weeks later. Now, to put it in perspective, Friendswood is about 2 hours from us, technically, because we have to cut through Houston. We live in League City now. She lives in Friendswood, but she lives up in the part of Friendswood where her dad has land. Now, whether they still have that land, I don't know. I haven't spoken to her, and I have no idea the state of her family or anything like that. So, guys, I can't answer that. I don't know. But at the time, they had a decent amount of land and a nice house, a very nice house. And her calling me when her dad is there, because her dad's one of the biggest guys I've ever met. Like, he's just big. His forearm is like worth twice of mine. And I'm not a small dude, but he's just got barrels for forearms. He's a big guy. He's a strong dude. Respect him a lot. He didn't want to necessarily deal with it alone, and he didn't want her out there with him. Right. So I go over there and we go to check it out. And it does look like something had pushed through the fence. Like, if you put your weight on like a fence, like a small wooden fence, and you're trying to break it down, and you put your weight down on it to kind of bend it forward is what it looked like. But it almost looks like someone didn't fully do it. And it was bent inward, which was a little concerning. And we found dog tracks, big ones. And my heart sank because he was telling me it was a coyote. And I know he could see that I was visibly, I'm going to be honest, I was kind of a coward a little bit. I didn't want to be there anymore. I wanted to get the heck out of there. I wanted to leave. I did not want to be there anymore. I did not feel comfortable there. I did not want to have any part of it. I was like, nope, that's too big to be a coyote. There's no way that's a coyote. Now, granted, it could have been, I guess, they do get big, but my headspace then wasn't on the rational explanation. My headspace was like, okay, so we had something watching us at the Renaissance Fair like 2 weeks ago, and now we got this. There's no way these are a coincidence, because I don't believe in coincidences. I'm not going to sit here and tell myself and lie to myself, because I did that once before, and look where that ended up. I'm going to remove myself. because I know we talked about it a little bit in 301. At least I think we did. I could be wrong, but I think we did. Where I told you I feel like I'm magnet to some of this stuff because weird stuff does just happen around me a lot. You know, I did a lot of the time living up in the Northwest. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little bit I'm getting a little bit spooked. I'll get into that in a minute and why. But I've always kind of had this thing where weird stuff just tends to kind of happen in around me, not to me specifically, but around me. You know, weird things. If it could happen, it will. And so living here up until that point, I hadn't had to deal with any of that, right? There was none of that. There was no, Vic, I can't tell you how happy I was at how peaceful it was. None of that. It was just normal day-to-day living, normal stuff. No weird things, no dogmen, no paranormal anything, nothing that's unexplainable that you have to just go, well, that happened. Nothing. It was just me working, getting money, spending time with her, and, you know, going out, occasionally getting drinks with my friends, right? Very simple, very easy. And I felt invaded, a little bit. Like I had kind of left not only for my parents, but because I wanted a fresh start to get away from it all, you know? And I was like, okay, well, you know, I left a life behind to start a new one. And now you're here, right? Now you're coming into my space where I made for myself away from all that. To get away from all of it. And it sucks because I have cousins who are Native American. They're really distant, but like they live up there and I don't get to see them anymore, talk to them very much anymore. Which I've kind of just started doing now, you know, over the last couple of months. Recently, I've started just reaching out to them to get a hold of them because at this point, like looking back at it, it was foolish of me to distance myself. It's just that my cousins were, you know, into all that stuff. And again, I feel like if you invite it into your life, like if you're interested in it and this is a me thing, and Vic, I'm probably wrong in thinking like this, but I always think like if you give something power, it's like if you say its name, if you acknowledge it, if you open yourself to it, you know, you invite that thing in, you give it you give it a way to come into your life and invade it, regardless of whether you want it to or not. And I didn't want that, you know? So I wanted to remove all the possibilities of somebody else being, you know, or attracting it so it wouldn't affect me. And I was hoping that would take care of it all and I wouldn't have to worry about it. Probably was wrong. And looking back, it was selfish a little bit. You know, they didn't deserve that. But it was just me trying to get a clean slate. So I was a coward a little bit in that regard. And for them, if they listen to this, if they do listen to this, to all the people that I had kind of walked away from to trying to preserve some sense of peace, I'm sorry. It wasn't ever about you. It was nothing you did. I just didn't want it. I didn't want it to come back because I was afraid that if it came back, it wouldn't leave. And I'm convinced that it probably hasn't. There are things that, you know, looking back that, yeah, I'm pretty sure there's one near here, but, I've segued enough. I'm sorry. I've kind of gone way off kilter with this a little bit. We went a while without hearing anything, right? So nothing came of it. Fence was fixed. It didn't look like anything. They did have a chicken or two go missing, but nothing crazy. Nothing crazy. We went a couple more months, and so there's this road that goes from League City, or I guess through League City, kind of. It's not quite a freeway or a highway, but it's a long stretch of road that goes through like a couple miles. Well, not a couple miles, but quite a few many miles of nothing. Allie told me it was Dead Man's Pass. Now, to give you guys a history lesson as to what that is, it is an area where there's a lot of like unsolved crime that goes on there. There people, you know, there have been, and this isn't to get graphic or anything, but they have found bodies out there way back when. Coyotes live out there, wild boar live out there. It is a wooded area of trees that kind of tangle around almost like, thorn bushes kind of, and it's just wilderness. It's just tons and tons of wilderness. And I'm pretty sure part of the reason why it's never been bulldozed over or taken care of is a lot of it's kind of like bogland. There's a lot of marshy parts of it, and there's just not a lot you could probably do with it, right, safely. So it's just kind of left to its own devices. And it's huge. It's huge. Well, Allie and I used to go out there, and that was our like little getaway camping area. I know that sounds really dumb. Like it does. Like it sounds really dumb. But like, she'd gone out there tons of times from what she told me, and I trusted her. We gone months without anything happening. I'm like, okay, maybe I'm just being paranoid. Again, she had a pretty face, pretty brown eyes, and a smile that could wash away any worry you have, kind of thing. And so when she tells me, trust me, we're fine, I chose to trust her. She'd been out there. Her parents had gone out there. She'd gone out there with friends camping. She'd been out there. She'd been traipsing through those little wooded areas for years and years and years. And so I trusted that we'd be fine. So we drove her car down into this like little embankment area and came down. Well, not embankment, but basically into this little path, right? Where, a few cars, it was clear people had come down here occasionally. It was not a man-made path necessarily, but it was one made over wear and tear kind of thing. If you've ever been camping, you know what I'm talking about, kind of thing, where it's just kind of matted down. The ground's clear because, tires and God knows what else has come through here and made it kind of a path. And there was this little area which was kind of clear where the branches didn't come down as low and everything like that. And you can kind of see the sky up above. It was really pretty. It was a beautiful place. They even had, some wildflowers out there that grew. They were beautiful. And we were going to stay the night there. I can almost feel myself screaming at me. Why would you do that? I know it's dumb, but we were young, we were in love, or at least I thought we were in love. And, there were, for lack of better terms, intentions for the evening. And we were getting comfortable for the evening and just kind of relaxing. And, we had gotten kind of a fire going outside. I cut some firewood, made a little area with some rocks and everything where we could put it out easily. So we'd have some natural light rather than the lights from the car. And we were just kind of preparing to kind of turn in. I had made a CD for her, like a little mix CD of various songs, which was just kind of like the cuddle playlist, for lack of a better term, where you just kind of like lay there and watch the stars sort of thing. And that was the goal. She wasn't in a convertible or anything like that, so we're gonna have to get out to do that part. But we were in the car because of other reasons, which I'm not about to get into. But she stops me, after we'd started getting all cozy, and told me that she didn't feel right. That and she sat up and I was like, "Well, what do you mean you don't feel right?" She's like, "Well, you're always the one that's so paranoid. Well, what do you mean? What do I mean? Do you not feel off, like we're being watched?" And so I sat up and I was like, okay, well, we had earlier seen, some old tents, stuff like that. We assumed that it might be some homeless folks that had come out here occasionally because they kind of roam around. If you've ever been to Texas, there's not a lot of them, but there's quite a few. So it didn't even dawn on me that like she meant something else. So of course I just kind of like locked the doors to the car because I'm way too distracted to think straight at this stage. This is when little Vic should have started screaming, but he didn't quite get there yet. He wasn't awake, I guess. I hadn't given him his coffee. But then it got really wrong really quick. There were birds out before they were quiet. And the air felt thick. Like it, when you feel like you're in trouble, or if you've ever come home and, mom and dad are gonna be mad at you and you're just kind of walking that long, tension-filled walk where you don't want to go in the house. It felt like that, but it felt like that everywhere. Like there was no getting away from it. And I'd never seen Allie scared. Allie was that country girl who just didn't get afraid. She wasn't afraid of anything. I've seen her square up with people that were twice my size, right? Big, scary guys that, even I might give a second glance at, and she just didn't care. She just did not care. And because of that, I don't know. It was just watching her face kind of get to where she's like, I don't know what it is, but I don't like it here. We should go. And I'm like, okay, well, let's put out the fire, everything. And as I go to reach for the door, the car lurches a little bit. Not a lot, but a little bit. Enough to where it felt like something put weight on it. And I'm sitting there kind of going, okay, well, that wasn't you and that wasn't me. And so I look outside and I'm expecting to see some goober sticking his face against the window, making weird eyeballs at us or something. I'm expecting anything at this stage other than what I saw, which was a close up of that eye that I had seen at the Renaissance Fair. And it was just staring at us. And I can't tell you, I cannot express to you how cold I got, because it didn't look at us like, oh, what's this? It was almost like it looked at us as if it were amused that we thought we had gotten away. Because it had that kind of curve to it, like when you smile and when you're kind of happy, whether you're happy to see somebody or something else. And it was almost like there you are. And I could almost feel my heart in my throat, because, before, when I was a kid, when this happened, it was me and my silly friends who were doing stupid things that you shouldn't have been doing and going places that our parents told us not to go. If something had happened, we would have deserved it. We went looking. And at the time I was like, we're not even where you should be. You shouldn't even be here. And all I can think about, is Allie. I'm kind of glancing over my shoulder now because I'm facing it. I turned around to face it. I'm glancing over my shoulder, and she is as pale as a ghost, and she's just sitting there with her mouth open, staring at this thing. And, I'm thankful that she's not screaming yet, that she's not freaking out. And then its head raises, and it purposely did this, looking back. And I only know because of the nightmare I had last night after talking about it with you, where I kind of got moments where I got to, see or kind of relive parts of it. But I never realized that it did it intentionally. And I can't say it didn't, because there's no reason why it wouldn't have. It raised its snout. And I mean, this thing's dark. So it's either dark brown or it's black, one or the other. It's dark. It's very dark furred. So it could have raised its head and not done anything else. But the moon was coming out just a little bit. It wasn't a full moon. It was like, I think a waning crescent, I think. But we had moonlight, and it raised its head up so we could see its teeth. And it opened its mouth and curled its lips back. Not like it was smiling, but just as if it was showing off what it had. Which that's what finally got Allie to freak out, was the gravity of it. And she went and made a sound. And I can't tell you how fast I shimmied behind her and grabbed her and put my hand over her mouth, because I didn't want to give it any reason to think that punching its way through that window or ripping that car door off was a good idea. I didn't want it to think that. I wanted it to either be bored and leave, or for it to give me a way to use the axe I cut the wood with that was in the floorboards, at least one good swing. That's all I could think of. If I could just get one swing, even if it were to pull me out of this car, at least then I could, maybe she could get out of here. Because all I could think about again was, I got to get her out of here. I got to get her out of here. This is my fault. I brought this thing. This is my fault. It had been years and years and years and years since anything had happened, even before I spoke with you. And I just couldn't help but blame myself. It was my fault. I did this. This was me. All me. Now she was in danger because of me. And that, I remember we talked about it in the last time I was here. But that anger that I felt the first time, it was so much more palpable now, because I went from being scared to being just furious. I had given up everything. I'd walked away. I had left. I'd started a new life for myself. I was happy. And this thing from my nightmares, this thing from my memories, decided it was going to come crawling back to life and just refused to let itself die. It just wouldn't stay away from me. And I was, to the point where it was like, if you want me, just come get me then. Like, if that's how we want to play this game, just do it already. What are you waiting for? What's the purpose? Why are you just standing there outside the car? Do something. Which is really dumb of me to say. Like, again, I'm not I know I wasn't thinking. I wasn't using any of the brains that I have. I was just angry. And, whether I was justified or not, it was still really dumb on my part, because if she hadn't been there, I may have done something really stupid, like go to, get out and just say, well, let's just do it then. If that's what you want. You've destroyed everything once. Let's just get it over with and you can destroy the rest of it. Cause I was just that mad. And I remember this was the only time, cause Allie and I had this really weird thing where I didn't really have to worry about her. So I typically didn't get in that position of, you're going to listen to me. And, she's trying to protest, my hands over her mouth. Like, you're going to listen to me and you're not going to make a sound. We're not going to make, this is as much sound as we're going to make. I'm whispering to her now. So we're going to let this thing circle around the car and we're just going to keep our eyes on it as best we can. You have your dad's gun in the glove box. You're smaller than me. You're going to get up in the front seat and you're going to get it just in case, right? Just in case. You're not going to do anything with it. We're not going to do anything, but it's smart enough where it will know what we're doing. And I'm going to grab that axe. And if something happens, no matter what happens, no matter what it does, get the keys, get in the driver's seat, and get ready. No matter what it does. This is exactly what I told her, is no matter what it does. Because she's starting to panic. And I can see the changes in the cogs in her mind trying to process what she's saying, which is the same thing I know that I probably did as a child, where the cogs you're trying to make sense of what you're seeing. You're trying to rationalize it. Like, oh my God, it's actually real. It's not some thing that people talk about online for clout. It's not something like that. This is a living, breathing thing. And as we're doing this, as we're having this, I'm pulling her with me as I'm rotating with this thing as it passes by the back window. This thing is huge. It's bigger. It has to be bigger than the one that I saw before. Its arms were longer and you can see them just barely through the dim light of the fire and the moon. You can see its muscles flexing. This thing could punch me in half. Like, it would juice me. There'd be nothing left. It goes straight through me like butter, like a hot knife through butter. I already know there's nothing I can do to stop it. But my head canon at the time was I could slow it down at the very least. I could do something to slow it down, and maybe I can make it think twice. If I can make it bleed, that's all I care about at this stage. If it comes in this car, because I'm not going to let you have her, kind of thing. I just won't let you do it. And so I had that grounding me and keeping me focused, despite how angry I was, how out of control it was. My head started hurting again, like it did back when I was a kid. I started getting those weird moments of just flashes of red. Like it's all happening again. I'm trying to keep myself grounded for her because I don't want her to see me pop off like that. I'm not that guy. I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be that. Right. So there's the fear of if this goes south and everything, the last thing she'll probably see of me, because I'm going to go jumping on this thing. If it tries to come through the car, I'm going to jump on it and try to get it away from her. And it's probably going to pull me out and that's going to be it. The last thing she's going to see of me is me going absolutely ballistic on this thing for the 3 seconds I'm going to have. There's a part of my mind that thinks it's pretty funny, the idea that this thing would stick its head in the car after breaking through the window and it'd get bit back, that I'd bite him back. Like, how does that feel? Like when you bite your dog when it's being bad and you bite him back and the dog just kind of looks at you. There's a part of me that wants to have that humor in there, to think that we'd have a moment there before it decided to eat me or finish me off, that it would be like, did you just really have the audacity to bite me back? But that's just me trying to make, I don't know why I'm laughing. I don't know why it's just the only way I have to kind of cope with it a little bit, because I don't know. But this thing circled around the car and it just kept circling around it, and it would slow down whenever there was a larger window, as if saying, yeah, I could get you here, or I could get you here. And it'd come back to the side, and every now and then it would dip its head down to look at us again. And, it would give her a glance, but it would focus in on me. It would look at me. And that's what I wanted it to do. So I was thankful that it was, in my head, I'm telling you, yeah, look at me. Look at me. Don't look at her. Look at me. And then it leaned up against the car and it pushed it a little bit to the side. Now, when I say pushed it a little bit to the side, we felt the car move a little bit. It didn't try to do anything, but I think it was trying to show us what it could do, right? Like, oh, look, with you in this thing, I can move it. So what are you going to do? This whole thing was just it squaring up, I'm pretty sure. And then it just kind of left. whether it got bored, I'm at this point, I have the axe in my hands. I'm making sure it can see it. I want it to know that I have something. I want it to know. Just like I know it has teeth and claws and it's stronger than me and bigger than me and faster than me. And heck, it might even be smarter than me. At this point, I don't know. There were a few times where it gave the handles a test, and so I knew it knew what handles were. It was aware of how to open a car door. So, I knew it fully knew how to get to us if it wanted to, but I wanted to make sure that it was very much aware that I had every intention on swinging this thing with every bit of strength my body had. It'd be the last thing I'd do, but at least I'd go down, hopefully I'd give it something to think about. Hopefully there'd be a little bit of me that it would remember for the rest of its life. And I'd pay it back. Right. That's the only anything. Again, just anything to get her out of here. Because that's all I really cared about at the time, which if you've ever been, someone in there where your loved one's in danger, kid, spouse, you name it, a lot of times that's the only thing you can think of. Like that's it. You can only think of their well-being, their safety. Of course, if you love them, right? Like everybody's got their own experiences. So I'm not going to say how to feel and all that, but you get what I mean? Like that's really the only thing you have, in those moments. And it can either be a really grounding situation for you, or it can be the thing that breaks the camel's back, the last straw sort of thing. But it eventually left. It left. I guess it got bored, or maybe it got what it wanted. But it looked back at us over its shoulder. And this is as Allie's starting up the car, getting ready to leave. We just left everything going. We left everything we had put out there, and the half built tent, all that. We left it all out there. And it looked back over its shoulder and just watched us. And, it then just kind of ducked into the tree line where we couldn't follow with the car. So probably assuming that Allie was going to do something crazy, like try to hit it, which is definitely within her MO. I think that between me and you, Vic, I think that was the smartest thing it could have done, because I'm pretty sure, she probably would have, and it would have ended up poorly for us. But because she was scared out of her mind. And we drove. We got out of there and we drove, and I don't know if it kept pace with us. I don't know if it followed us. I don't think it needed to. I think the point was made. Thinking about it, I don't even know if it was alone. To be honest with you, I don't even know if it was by itself. It seemed way too cocky, and it seemed, I think it was a male. Looking back at its behavior, I think it very much felt like we encroached on its territory, and I'm going to get into why. I feel like it felt threatened and it was angry. But it was also coming because it knew it didn't need to actually do anything. It just needed to give a little bit, and it would get a lot out of it. You know what I mean? It knew full well what it was capable of. And we knew too. And Allie didn't say anything to me up until we got home. And, she lived away from me, and she dropped me off first for once, which was fine. I didn't mind not walking back, mainly because I'd have to pass by a certain stretch of wilderness, and she just didn't feel comfortable leaving me there. And I looked at her, I was like, "Are you okay?" Like, I know that's a silly question. And she just told me, we'll talk about it later, but I just need to go home. And so she went home. I didn't hear from her for 2 days. Finally, a friend of mine, Chris, took me over there to go see her, and everything. And he kind of dropped me off after we're done hanging out and kind of getting stuff taken care of. So I was helping him paint one of the rooms in his house. So I was like, "Hey, can you drop me off over here? I'm just going to go knock on the door and see if her folks are home, see if she's home, see if I can see what's going on. I'm a little bit worried about her." And when she answered the door, she just looked at me, and she didn't look like she was sleeping well. I mean, she already had insomnia, but this was, different. She looked changed, and she invited me in, and we sat down and started talking. And, she told me that, I didn't believe you. I didn't believe any of it at first. I'm like, well, yeah, that's a rational thing to say. I told her straight up, that's probably the most real thing you could ever say about any of this. Like, unless you see it, it's good to listen to, it's fun. And I'm sure there's people out there who, Vic, we talked about people that enjoy listening, but, they don't necessarily believe in it. It's just a cool ghost story. It's that until you see it, until it's standing there in front of you and you can see its heart beating and the blood pumping through its veins and the muscle move and every bit of it designed to take life. That if it wanted to, it would make it easy. That, God forbid, the stories you hear where people have shot these things or have managed to hurt these things and they just walk it off. They don't even care. It doesn't even faze them. It's an entirely different league. You and I get hurt, shot, stabbed, whatever it is, and we go into shock, or, we have our fleeting moments before, eventually we succumb to our wounds. These things take 4 or 5 shots, maybe a whole magazine, and they just walk it off. Never be seen again. Whether they die or not, we don't know. But they don't clearly care, and they're not afraid, and they know for a fact they've got us beat. It's a scary prospect. The fact that they can open doors and all that is so. Watching her process it, because I already had you to kind of help me with that, right? Like, you and I had already talked. We'd already gone through and discussed all this with each other and how to handle it and how to approach it, how to digest that content. Well, not content, but the contents of your brain, like the thoughts and the rationale behind it, and how to make it make sense. She didn't have any of that. She just had me. And I was trying to explain to her that, she's not crazy for what she saw, that it's fine. And then she just looked at me with that look of, there's more to it than that. Which she had done that quite a bit whenever she had something she didn't tell me that she wanted to. We'd had that with like friend drama and other stuff where she'd give me the look first and wait for me to be ready to hear about it. And so I was like, okay, so you're giving me the look. What are you not telling me? What is it that I don't know? Allie was into very many things of the occult, and she wanted to practice the occult. And she did practice the occult. Now, Vic, you and I have talked about it a little bit more in detail, and for the sake of yours, I'm not going to go into everything, but, she was somebody who was interested in, for example, for those of you, cannibalism is one of them, kind of thing. And, she had a ritual altar. She told me that she was a witch, and she showed me all this. I can't express to you the pit in my stomach that I felt when she told me that, when we were out there that night, she had found some things laying around that looked like little dolls and totems. And, we had found one kind of laying around at the Renaissance Fair, but, we thought it was something like one of the props because it looked like one of them too. You know what I mean? Like, it looked like one of them. But she told me these ones were much more crude, and she took one. And when she held it up, I could only back away from it because it looked just like the one I'd seen in my childhood. The one that's made of bones and like fur and some other things. It's very, very crude and rudimentary. But she had taken it. She had taken it from where we were. She'd gone and touched it, taken it. She had it in her home. And all the anger came back, and we had our disagreement. We had our argument where I told her, why would you do this? After all the things I told you, why would you do this? Why go through and put yourself here? Why put us here? Why do this to us? And that's kind of when she, because we'd talked a lot before we were friends, and we had talked a lot about the stuff that she was interested in. I kind of expressed, knowledge and understanding of it. She had listened to my episode and heard where I had said that I felt like a magnet. And she thought that was the very apt description, I guess, and figured that why not, let's test that theory. Because she wanted to see. She wanted it. Whatever she wanted it for, whether she thought that it would give her some enlightenment or whether it'd prove something or I don't know, Vic. I don't know. I don't know what she wanted. But the fact that sacrificial altar had like what it had and all that, and there were things there that were wrong about it. There are a whole host of things that, just none of it felt right. None of it seemed right. And she invited it, is how I feel looking at it now as I'm older, as I've had time to get away from it. And I mean, and she did threaten me that if I ever talked about it, but like we haven't had conversation with each other for quite a long time. She's well and far removed and gone at this point. Probably doesn't even go by the nickname that she was using, the one that I'm calling her by now. Probably doesn't even use that. So I highly doubt that it would matter or be of much consequence of me sharing it now. Mainly because there's no reason for us to interact. Anything that did exist was gone after that day when we, inevitably broke apart. And it was a rough breakup and everything like that, even still, because it sucked because, you go 6 to 8 months of having somebody there all the time and they're not being there anymore. But, she got what she wanted. She'll be known for her activities, I guess now, to whatever degree, that's up to everybody else. I'm not going to go into the details or express what kind of human being she was. I'll leave that for everybody here to kind of come through, but I was used for whatever purpose, which I believe was that. And she got what she wanted. And I got another memory of these things, I guess, and a story to tell around a campfire or here with you, to hopefully encourage other people who, if I've seen one here in Texas, I'm sure other people have too down this far. And like I said in the very first video, if you're scared to share it, there's no safer person or place to do it than here with Vic. There's nobody that understands more than Vic does, I think, in terms of the kind of care he offers, the kind of advice he gives, the way that he conducts this and everything that goes into it, and the amount of documentation and records. There hundreds of people have come and given their testimony. Don't sit on it. Don't give it strength by burying it, because these things, that's what they thrive on. And the more they can get to you, the more they'll come. And, whether or not she continued on her path and did what she did and found more, or if it found her, I don't know. But I haven't, since her and I parted ways, haven't really had any major encounters. There were a few weird moments, like I told you. I'm still looking for some of the stuff that I have, like, if I can find that silly picture that's somewhere. I don't know if it's in my old phone. I might have to go try and get somebody to go into it, because it doesn't work like it used to, but I haven't been able to find it yet. But there were, footprints outside my window where someone looked like they'd been standing there, very heavy, fairly large. There's been banging and thumping. There's been a couple times where the neighborhood dogs have freaked out, together, like they have freaked out. And my neighbor's dog has freaked out too. And these aren't let me inside, like I told you, kind of barks and yips and yells. These are, I'm angry or something's here and I don't want it here, get away. So, I'm sure, given the wilderness that is around where I live and, the vast areas that in Texas where there just isn't anything there, there's plenty of territory. There's plenty of spaces for these things to hide. They hide even in suburban areas. And I'm pretty sure I don't remember if I heard a story here, or if I was listening to it, because I was listening to it on one of my lunches. But I think there was one that was in a, not a city, but a small town, a fairly small town. But it was populated enough to where it could be, I guess, considered a fledgling city or one coming up to it. Right. And this thing just kind of lived on the outskirts, just outside. They know where to live. They know how to hide. They know how to stay away from us and everything like that. I don't remember if it was here, if it was another channel that I'd watched with Chris, but he had me listen to it. I have to go see if I can get him to give me that later, and maybe I can send you the link so you can give him a shout out. I don't know. It might be. I'm pretty sure it's here. I'm pretty sure it's one of yours, but I'm not sure. These things can be anywhere, and I don't want people suffering because they're scared to share their experiences. You're going to feel crazy while you're talking about it. I feel crazy right now. And this is the second time I've been here with Vic, and I still feel that way. But, it's because these are supposed to be movie monsters. This is supposed to be stuff you tell your kids to keep them in check, to keep them in bed when they're supposed to be in bed and stuff like that. It's not supposed to be a living, breathing creature that walks and breathes the same air we do on the same earth we do. It's not supposed to be that. It's supposed to be fantasy. And when you see one, it changes your life. So for those of you who are out there, if you are like Allie, learn from her experience and don't. You don't want it. It changed her. As much fortitude as she had, as much as she thinks she wanted it. I know it was a regret because of the look on her face and the fact that she was never the same after that. Because some of our friends who still used to hang out with her for at least a while until I kind of dipped out, they told me she had never been different since, she'd never been the same since then. She'd been different, quieter, colder. She just wasn't the same person. Don't. Just be thankful that you haven't. Enjoy your peace in your life and just be safe. There's no reason to go looking for these things, because the more you look for them and when you find them, you might be the unlucky soul who doesn't get to tell a story. Because I'm sure for every story that's told of these things, with as many of them as there are stories that will never be told because the person who experienced them is not here, because they didn't get the "I'm going to stare at you." They got the "your food." Don't do it. It's like with any wild animal. Please, if anything from this video you listen to, please God, listen to that. Don't do it. Just, it's not worth it. There's no reason to do it. You don't need that. Be here for those who have suffered through living with this creature and having it haunt their lives and bother them. Do that. That's how you can make your difference. That's how you can make your stance. That's how you can stand there. But don't try to find it to prove a point. If you don't believe in it, then you don't believe in it. That's fine. I'd rather you not believe and live your life completely free of it and have a long, prosperous life with, lots of kids and all the money you could stand to have and every good thing that could possibly happen to you, live and be ripe and old and everything else, then have one of these things come crashing into your life, because usually they don't leave. And when they show up, other things tend to too. There are plenty of stories of people who have experienced one and that thing, and then they run into another one. And there's some terrifying accounts, just on Vic's channel alone, where they're not just, for lack of a better term, giant, internet trolls that live out in the forest and try to bait your feelings. There's plenty of stories about them, hurting people and doing things to hurt people and putting people into bad positions. So just be safe out there. Don't ever go camping without a firearm. Don't ever go camping without tools to survive. Don't do any of that. And if there's places where people say they are, just don't go there, or try not to. Don't live your life in fear, as Vic says, but at the same time, don't be like, hey, yeah, I know there's dogmen in these woods over here because someone, told a story and when they were a kid and these things are out there. Just don't do it. It's not like a bear. It's not like, normal animals where there are things you can do to deter them. These things do not care. The case in point with this one that was messing with the car when we were in it, at any point, if it really wanted to, it could have done it. I know it could have done it. You just feeling it move the car, you knew it could have done it. At the very least, it would have been able to flip the car over, probably, before we could react. So, I thank God every day that it didn't, I thank God every day that I'm all right, that I'm still here, that I'm here talking with Vic and I'm telling my story. I don't go there anymore. I don't even drive down that road no more. I don't go anywhere near that road. I'd rather take the commute through the frontage or the freeway or the highway and risk dealing with road rage and slow times than take a quicker route and have the risk of that thing coming out of the tree line trying to shoulder check my car. So, that's about it. There's not as much. There's a lot there, but I don't think there's as much as the last time. But I'm sorry I waited so long to reach out, Vic, and I'm sorry, guys, that I've been gone for so long, and for those I've left behind because of this stuff to try and distance myself all these years. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to run, to have my own slice of happiness,
Oh, don't apologize for any of that. I mean, when you reached out to me, it was the right time, because that was the time you determined that it was the right time to contact me. So now I'm just glad that you brought me up to speed. Having said that, I'm so sorry to hear that you have these new experiences, especially the one that happened that night in the car. There is one thing I do want to touch on, though, that you said. Everything that you said, I totally agree with, except one thing, and that is there being tons of at least credible stories out there about these guys harming people. Now, I've said this who knows how many times on the show. I'll never tell anyone that dogmen are safe to be around. The best dogman encounter to have is the one that never happens in the first place. Because, yeah, I do believe that these guys, given the right circumstances, will hurt people. But on the other hand, I think it's been clearly demonstrated over the years that as a whole, these guys are not wired by nature to just look for an opportunity to rip a person apart. But yeah, I do believe there are deviant dogmen out there that are dangerous, and if they get the opportunity, they will hurt and kill people. But I think those deviant dogmen are very, very few and far between. I've gone over this before. Why do I come to that conclusion? Why have I come to that conclusion? Because I've literally spoken with thousands upon thousands of people who were in the perfect place for a dogman they had encountered to do that to. But like you, they were allowed to leave without a scratch. Does that mean that it never happens where dogmen harm people, where dogmen kill people? Absolutely not. I fully believe that happens. I fully believe that they do harm people. I fully believe that sometimes they kill people. But my whole point, like I've said all along, is they're clearly not wired by nature to be that way. The ones that happen to do that are just deviant examples. So yeah, like I said, I agree totally with everything that you said, except that one idea that you put out there that maybe you're trying to say that it's a fairly common thing for that to happen. I don't want to put words into your mouth, but my whole thing is, in case you were saying that, I wanted to make sure that you understood that. I definitely don't agree with that.
No, I don't. They're like any wild animal, right? This way I look at them now. I don't hate them like I used to. I'm still a little angry, but I mean, like, hey, who wouldn't be? But, you know, we came into its house and she took something from it. Someone come into my house and steal something from me, they're going to get the worst of me too. And if that's the worst of that particular dogman, then I count myself blessed that it wasn't, you know, any angrier than it needed to be, right? I don't want to make it sound, and I apologize. I probably made it sound like something that's not. I mean, there's plenty of accounts of these things, right? Just existing in general. What I'm saying is that, you know, pushing them, going into their homes, taking their stuff, messing with them, poking, prodding, just being kind of a disturber of their peace, that could make you the one that gets the deviant, right? That's because you never know. You can only take so much. I mean, same with any other wild animal, like bears, wolves, you know, mountain lions. If you come into their space and you do things specifically to disrupt their lives, and you're doing things that are going to set them off, yeah, you're probably going to get it worse than somebody who's just minding their own business and is getting a passing, oh, I'm kind of interested in this person behavior, right? And it is clear that they fixate, you know, plenty of the stories that you hear, you know, and even my experiences have kind of, they have to fixate on people for whatever reason. I don't know what kind of weird, wacky logic they have, but, you know, and I'm not meant to understand. But I can respect them as a part of nature, and that they have their place and I have mine. Like I said in the beginning, I don't blame them. I don't even blame myself for this one. This is one of those things that there was somebody in between us that kind of pitted us on this path. I feel like, this collision course, and, you know, I can't be angry with it when it, at least from my understanding, was defending its territory. Because any animal would react the same way, I guess. I'm just saying, don't do as she did, because you never know. Like, we're all people. We all have different things to set us off. You know, difference is we don't have that kind of feral side to us like that. And animals, they will react accordingly. So I don't know. I'm just grateful that it didn't decide that, you know, she had crossed a line that could not be uncrossed. I think scaring the actual, scaring her half to death is probably all it wanted to do. And I'll be honest, since she went out there and messed with it stuff, I'm fairly certain it watched her do it the entire time. I'm fairly confident, because I didn't leave where we were very much. You know, of course you go to the bathroom break when you're getting ready to do a bathroom thing, when you're getting ready to go to and do camping, right? Which, you know, it happens, but I didn't leave our little area that we had designated. I didn't kind of go traipsing off that far. She wasn't far enough to where I couldn't hear her, but I couldn't see if anything was watching her while she was fiddling with its stuff. I didn't really want to go test fate, you know, and run into something weird like that. But that's what I was saying, Vic.
I see. Thanks for clearing that up. Well, Having said that, Bryce, it's about time for us to call it. Before we do, I just want to thank you so much for coming on, and I wanted to see if you had any closing comments you want to put out there for us. It sounds like you've already done a really good job with the closing comments, but if there's anything else, please tell us.
Guys, like I said earlier, just, Vic's a saint. He does this, for us, like, he can help. I said it my first time I was here and talking with him again. He managed to get me to feel at ease. He gave me some good advice. He's a good man, and he can take care of whatever it is that's ailing you, whatever demons these things have put in your head. So if you have experiences, this is the only reason I stepped forward is because I didn't want anybody who's here in Texas or further down south who, feel like maybe they shouldn't be seeing things, because most of these, at least from what I've always remembered, happen further north. Don't just sit on it. Vic can help you. He can at least help you get these out of your head so that we can live your life and be free of it. And we need each other. When you see these things, it comes down to nobody's going to understand the kind of shenanigans and pain that you're going through, or the thought process, from feeling you're crazy or there's something wrong with you, or whatever it is. I don't think any of us would, anybody but somebody who's seen it would understand that better, outside of maybe Vic. And that's just because he's been with it for so long and done this for so long. I'm very thankful that I managed to run into him, and I'm very thankful that I managed to be given the privilege of being here to share my stories with you guys, and to have Vic help me in the ways he has. I wouldn't be where I am today in my life without him, to be honest with you. I'd still be pulling chump change, working rinky-dink jobs. He was the one that gave me the hope for better, and that I shouldn't let my experiences make me duck my head and hide. And I've tried to live up to the words that he gave me, and I tell myself them every day when I need them. So if you need somebody, he's here. Please let him help you.
Well, thanks so much for the glowing words. That's awfully kind of you, but yeah, you give me way too much credit. You really do. I just try to help the witnesses the best I can come to terms with their encounters, and yeah, that's all that I do. But thanks again so much, and have a great night.